Hi, this is Mark Soden for Wonder Valley Experimental number 16, and I'm here with Usufruct.
I'm Polly Springhorn, and we are both in Oakland, California.
I'm Tim Walters, and yes, I'm also in Oakland in the same room, even.
You guys have a really interesting sound, and I've seen you perform a number of times, and from time to time you appropriate things from the internet and use them as narratives in your performances. What led you to that approach?
Our raison d'etre is mangling and improvising around materials from the public domain. So things that you find on the internet are definitely in the public domain, but not everything
Sometimes.
we do is public domain. Um, for example, once I was riding BART, which is the commuter train here in the Bay Area, and I saw a guy who was passed out in one of the seats, and he had a yellow legal pad on his lap. And what it said on it was, "Yesterday I got stripped and still had." And that's all he'd managed to write down before he lost consciousness for whatever reason. And so I took a photo of that piece of writing, and then I used predictive text on my phone to write four stanzas, each beginning with "Yesterday I got stripped and still had." So that's one of our pieces, which the beginning of it was public domain because it was right there in public, but I used a process to make it into a text for Usufruct.
Do you find that working with narratives helps extend the attention span of the audience?
I think it's slightly different because nothing quite ever adds up to a narrative exactly. It has the form of the narrative and it sort of verges on being a comprehensible narrative. And you can make a narrative out of it. There's a lot that's maybe implied or the listener can fill in some gaps. But if you actually look at what the text is, it doesn't actually tell a story. And I don't think there are any exceptions. But a lot of the texts have a strong implied story. It makes you, I think, makes the listener want to fill in the gaps. And I think that's a different way of engaging. The listener can kind of co-create the narrative because it's not actually in the text, but it is the kind of text that makes you want to fill in the gaps. And at least that one that she was talking about as an example.
Hmm.
Another one I think we're going to do. The phrases are from an old uh, kind of a tourist guide phrase book. It's called Bashgali Grammar. But it was from what, the 19th century, and it's completely nuts. But editing these phrases that are like supposed to be the phrases you would go into your translation book for uh, into a certain order, again, it implies a narrative to some extent. And if you listen to it, you'll get a feeling of a narrative, but you'd be hard pressed to describe the plot. But at the same time, you can make one up that connects those dots. So it's kind of I guess all narrative is you got the reader or the listener has to connect the dots to some extent. And in ours, the dots are pretty far apart, and you can probably make multiple shapes with it. But it doesn't, it's not just random either. It doesn't seem like one thing after another. I
It
hope.
doesn't seem random to me. I think that's a good approach, filling in the dots, because it involves the audience. It gives them something to do. And if they get bored, they get dangerous. We know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I remember that you did a piece I think it was trying to shake people down for money because they had taken control of the camera on your smartphone or something. And it had
Yeah.
all of this really wild assertions of like, you'll be so humiliated, you'll, want to do this, that, and the next thing. And it was, it was like beyond the Nigerian princes, it was well beyond any of that stuff. It was quite,
Next level. Yep.
yeah, it was quite interesting.
That means
So,
an actual spam that we got. I think you got.
Yes.
I still get those actually. I mean, they're not all exactly the same, but it's the same idea, you know. And I guess all it takes is one person who has actually performed an act of onanism in front of their web camera and who will be foolish enough to believe this. And you can send, since you can send like a million emails for nothing, all it takes is one person to respond, right? I guess that's the idea.
yeah, that is,
I guess that's
that,
why that keeps happening. But we decided to do something more constructive with it than pay a lot of Bitcoin to some rando.
well, have you had any experience with the telephone spam that's AI generated? This particularly the ones that are harvesting money for first responders, firemen, and police departments.
I have heard of these, but I don't answer any calls from a number I don't recognize. So I have not actually heard one.
Yeah.
Well, I not only answer them, I demand to know if they're a machine.
Ooh,
And
what happens then?
well, then they deny it. But they get flustered. And after I just say, no, you're a machine, you're an AI, you're trying to do this to raise money. I'm not going to have any part of this. And then they usually hang up, but they won't stay on the line with you if you call them on it. I answer spam calls. So, first question, are you a machine?
Even if they're not a machine, you're not going to believe them. So that's kind of the problem for them, I guess. Yeah, I some people like to do that to mess with them. I don't have the patience, so I'm glad that
Well,
you're instead of me.
I
But
just
we do this other thing, so we get our revenge in a different way.
in a different way, yes. So, what are you preparing for this year's Wonder Valley experimental? You want to give us any little preview?
Sure. I'm sure lots and lots of folks out there have had the experience of watching TV with the closed captioning on, and suddenly it starts speaking an alien language to you. So I was at the gym once, and this phenomenon occurred, and I took a whole bunch of photos of the alien captioning.
Hmm.
So that is percolating and beginning to become something for Wonder Valley.
I was just going to say, since last we talked, have you acquired any new gear or software that you would like to share about?
Not that we're going to be bringing. I mean, I have a modular synthesizer. I have a mod life crisis, like a lot of people, and so yeah, I mean, that's constantly happening. But it's what we use when we do our show is I use software called Super Collider on my laptop, and that's open source. I've been using it for 20 years now or so, and it's just the gift that keeps on giving. And yeah, you don't really, I mean, I write a new software, I write in the software for every new piece that we do, but I don't really need to change that tool at all. You can do anything you can do in electronic music, you can do in Super Collider, actually. So um, you may not get the fun knobs to turn, but I have as you may recall, I have the Linstrument, which is a controller that allows for, many dimensions on each finger, and you can do a lot of expressive stuff with that. So I program in Super Collider to respond to that, and it's just different for every piece. Might be um, might be samples in my modular, sometimes.
Hmm.
So that I guess in a way it feeds in. I'll take some stuff that I was doing on the modular synthesizer and then I'll process it further and cut it up. In this one, probably it's going to be a lot of computer speech, actually. So it'll be sort of a dialogue between computer reading some of this text and probably being munged in super collider, and between Polly doing whatever she's going to do with it. So
Which flutes are you bringing?
I'm I'm bringing them, but I am not sure exactly what role they will have in this new piece we're working on.
yeah, the two things we know we're doing that because they were new. We try not to repeat ourselves from previous years any more than we absolutely have to. And the two pieces that we know are going to be there are both spoken word pieces, but we might need to stick some flute in there somehow because that's
Well,
good.
it's always a highlight.
I, I like it when she plays the flute.
So, what's going on in the Bay Area scene?
Oh gosh, we're we're all back in front of real live audiences now. Um, that still feels like big news
Yeah,
because it was pretty bad when we were all shut up indoors and couldn't play for each other and exchange energy with the audience. Um, the Outsound Summit on we're on the board of
Hmm.
Outsound. Pretty soon the booking is going to begin. It's going to be the last week in July, like it always is.
Hmm.
Um, our friend David Mahalik, who is the band leader of Ghost in the House, has started a new sound and visuals series at the Center for New Music in San Francisco, and it's going to go for a couple of years. So
Wow.
he is going to have once a month um, some films and some live music performance. And in fact, the next one on March 16th is going to feature us as the live performers. And the films that David is going to present are all involve spoken word in some way. So it's going to be the spoken word show of
Wow.
of this series.
That's marvelous. Always something going on up there. Yeah.
yeah, it's funny because venues keep it's been the same way for I don't know 30 probably more years. Venues come, venues go, but there's a core of people who are always willing to do the work to make it happen, which was just a really great thing. We have, yeah, there was a series that I guess is going to be ending at Mosswood Chapel, which is this really cool space, and there's just all there would be there's this the Skronkathon was held there. That's like an all day event, uh, and there's just a big scene of new music people and improvisers, and I think a lot of us moved to the East Bay. San Francisco has become really hard for people to afford to live in. Uh, so a lot of the energy has moved to the East Bay, I would say, over the last couple of decades. But there's still things happening in San Francisco, and there are plenty of good things happening.
Some of us, not us, but some of us had to leave the Bay Area during the pandemic, having lost jobs and coming upon other economic hardship. But those of us who are left are, holding on tight, and we are committed, and we are committed to nurturing the next generation. There are lots of folks playing who we don't know
Yeah,
personally, which is awesome.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. A lot of young people, both in the audience and playing, and it's a really good thing. And I mean, these some of these guys are monsters.
So, I wanted to touch on your relationship to Wonder Valley and what led to you coming to Wonder Valley and eventually getting a place there.
Uh, we were invited to play at the Palms by a friend of ours named Emily Hay, who you probably know from LA. Uh, and she's like, "Oh, you want to come play in the desert?" I'm like, "Yeah." This was our band. I shouldn't say this was not the two of us. This was our progressive rock avant-garde avant-prog band, Reconnaissance Fly. And somehow all five of us thought that was a good idea. So we went down and we kind of stayed over, down. I think it was one of the Sibleys put us up somewhere, and
Yeah.
we played. This was 2014, is that right?
2014, 10 years
2014,
ago.
10 years ago.
Wow.
And it was just fabulous time. We loved the Palms. We didn't know anything about it. We had trouble finding it, This was back before you could do it on Google Maps or whatever. And but it was a blast, and we had a great show. People actually listened to our weird music, which was even in the middle of the desert, which we thought was really cool. And we go out, and there's like a drunk Marine like tickling a scorpion, and we're like, okay, this is a fun place. So, and then we would come back, we would come back from music events after that. Um, but one time we were driving away from, I think it was the Sound Art Festival, that Kate put on that one time. And we got stuck behind on Amboy Road. We got stuck behind a Marine convoy, and we just kept seeing all these signs for land for sale, land for sale. And we're going like 10 miles an hour. Like, we could just go check out one of these land for sale places and then come back, and it wouldn't be that much slower, and it'd be fun. So we did that. And then we were on I-5, and we call up one of the people, and they have like all these plots of land for sale, and we took one out, and it was very inexpensive. It was nothing, just 5 acres of bare land. And we came down and we would camp for a while, and then another place came up that had one of the jackrabbit cabins on that we could get out of the wind. And it was right next to the other one, and so we bought that. And then that was good for a while, and then I kind of had some health issues, and it really wasn't really possible for me to be quite as roughing it in the same way as we were, and we ended up sort of upgrading to a place that has, like a septic system and power and all that kind of stuff. And
All the
yeah,
comforts of home,
yeah,
water, power,
yeah,
septic,
yeah.
air conditioning.
Instead of a cinder block hut in the desert. And because of that, now it's even more of a commitment. We're down there a lot, and we go there together, and we also go there kind of like to do little retreats to kind of work on individual projects, and we just love it.
It's good that you got behind that convoy.
Yeah,
That's
Yes.
yeah. You just never know with these things.
I guess we should thank the U.S. Marine Corps.
Yeah,
well, they're a huge presence out here.
Yep.
yeah. We
It's
hear,
amazing.
yeah, everybody hears all the bombs and everything. So,
We hear them doing their war
but
games.
it's still quieter than Oakland. So,
Way quieter.
yeah, yeah. That's
Well,
a
is
beautiful.
there anything that you'd like to add to this interview? I mean, we're pretty freewheeling here.
Well, I will say we always look forward to seeing what everybody else is doing. It's always a great time. And I would urge anyone watching this, whether you think what we are going to do sounds great or not, you should come because it's always a really fun day. And thanks for all your effort in getting it going. And I don't know, you stepped back a little bit, right? But you haven't stepped back very far, it doesn't seem like.
Not yet.
Yeah,
Still, I didn't book it,
yeah,
but
Thanks
we're
to you and Deb and Scott.
and Scott and James Allen.
James, yeah.
And so those guys are going to be entering the fray. So they are coming into frame, and it's going to be good. We're doing some different things. We have a little t-shirt sale, so trying to raise money so that we can get a big truck to move everything out, so that they don't have to own an F-150 for X many years that I did. And because the F-150 is gone, so
yeah,
it's an expense. So we're trying to find ways to give people t-shirts in exchange for money to rent trucks. So it's sort of triangle trade in a strange way.
I'll get a
Thank you
shirt.
so much for your time, and always a pleasure talking to you. And have a great evening, and we'll talk again soon.
Great.
Take good care, Mark.
Thanks.
Will do.
See you soon.
See you
See you
soon.
soon.